The mining drill cut deep into the rock. Yuntai wiped sweat from his face as he watched his team work. They had been digging on this moon for 3 months now. The pay was good and the work was honest. Nobody expected to find anything strange. "Boss, you need to see this," called out Park Jin from the bottom of the pit. His voice sounded different, worried. Yuntai climbed down the metal ladder. The drill had stopped moving. In front of them was a wall that looked like it was made of black glass. Strange symbols glowed blue along its surface. The symbols moved like they were alive. "What is this thing?" asked Li Su, the youngest member of their team. She reached out to touch the wall. "Don't!" Yuntai grabbed her hand. "We don't know what it is. Could be dangerous." But it was too late. The wall had already started to change. The blue light grew brighter. The symbols moved faster. A low sound came from deep inside the wall. It sounded like singing. Back on Earth, Ambassador Park Mina sat in her office reading reports. She was tired. Being the only human voice in the Galactic Council was harder than anyone knew. The other species treated her like a child. They thought humans were too young to understand how the galaxy worked. Her communication device beeped. It was Admiral Choi Sung calling from the space station above Earth. "Mina, we have a problem." His voice was serious. Something happened. At the mining site on Kepler 442c, a huge energy wave just went out from there. It hit 3 star systems. Park Mina felt cold. "How bad is it?" "Bad. The wave hit the Velthari homeworld during one of their religious ceremonies. Their high mystic is dead. The Nexari are saying some of their children got hurt too. The Ethereals are already calling for an emergency council meeting." Park Mina closed her eyes. She knew what this meant. The Velthari were one of the oldest and most powerful species in the council. They never forgave anything. The Nexari were made of living crystal, and their children took thousands of years to grow. The Ethereals were beings of gas and energy who saw everything as either harmony or chaos. "How long do we have?" she asked. "The council meeting is in 6 hours. You need to get there now." Captain Lee Hyun stood on the bridge of his ship, the UES Defiant. It was the newest and strongest ship in the human fleet. But compared to the ancient vessels of other species, it looked like a toy. "Sir, we're getting strange readings from the mining moon," reported his science officer, Dr. Kim Jae. She was young but very smart. The Admiral had put her on his ship for a reason. "What kind of readings?" "The energy wave that came from there. It's not like anything we've seen before. It's almost like the moon is talking to something. Or someone." Lee Hyun frowned. In his 10 years as a captain, he had learned to trust his science officers. If Kim Jae said something was strange, it usually was. "Keep watching it. And get me everything we can about that artifact the miners found." The council chamber was huge. It could hold representatives from over 1,000 different species. Park Mina walked through the entrance feeling very small. Around her, aliens of every shape and size talked in angry voices. Some looked like giant insects. Others were made of living rock. A few were just floating clouds of gas. She took her seat in the human section. It was very small compared to the areas given to older species. Next to her sat the only other humans on the council: Trade Representative Han Sol and Military Advisor General Lim Da. "This looks bad," whispered Han Sol. "I've never seen them this angry." The council leader was a Velthari named Kethmore. He was over 3,000 years old and looked like a tall, thin tree made of silver metal. When he spoke, his voice rang like a bell. "Fellow beings of the council," he began, "we are here because of a great crime. The young species called humans have caused the death of our high mystic. They have hurt the children of the Nexari. They have brought chaos to 3 peaceful systems." Park Mina stood up. "Council leader, this was an accident. Our people were just mining for resources. They found something they didn't understand." A sound like breaking glass came from the Nexari section. Their representative Silvar spoke in a voice that sounded like wind through crystals. "Accident? Your people disturb ancient things that should not be touched. This shows they are dangerous." From the ethereal section came a voice like distant thunder. "The energy wave disrupted our meditation circles. Our young ones are confused and afraid. This species brings only chaos wherever they go. More voices joined in. The Zephyrians accused humans of being too aggressive. The Tranquil ones said humans expanded too fast across the galaxy. The Ancient Collective claimed humans were disturbing the balance of space itself. Park Mina felt the weight of 1,000 angry stares. She had been preparing for something like this for years, but it was still terrifying. Council leader Kethmore raised his hand for silence. The council will now vote on the human question. All those in favor of immediate action? Lights began appearing across the chamber. Each light meant a species was voting for punishment. Park Mina counted them with growing fear. 100 lights, 200, 500, 800. When the counting stopped, the number made her sick. 847 species had voted against humanity. Only 3 had voted to give humans a chance. The vote is clear, announced Kethmore. His voice was cold as space. The species known as humans are declared a threat to galactic peace. They have 1 standard year to withdraw from all colonies beyond their home system. They must give up all military ships. They must accept council oversight of their homeworld. If they refuse, they will be removed from the galaxy by force. The chamber erupted in sounds of approval from hundreds of different species. Park Mina sat down heavily in her chair. She felt Han Sol's hand on her shoulder, but it didn't help. She stood up one more time. The chamber grew quiet. Everyone wanted to hear what the human would say before her species was destroyed. Members of the council. Her voice was steady even though her heart was racing. You think we are weak because we are young. You think we will bow down because you are many and we are few. She paused and looked around the chamber. You are wrong about us.
You are wrong about what humans will do when cornered. She took a deep breath. You mistake our youth for weakness. You will regret this decision. The words echoed through the huge chamber. Some aliens laughed. Others made sounds of anger, but
a few, the older and wiser ones, felt something cold touch their hearts. Park Mina walked out of the chamber with her head held high. Behind her, the council celebrated what they thought was an easy victory. They had no idea they had just started a war that would change the galaxy forever. On the mining moon, the artifact continued to sing its ancient song. Deep in space, things that had been sleeping for millions of years began to wake up. The galaxy was about to learn what humans were really capable of when they had nothing left to lose. President Han Sol sat at the big table in the Earth Assembly building. Around him were the leaders of every nation on Earth. The room was quiet, but everyone could feel the fear in the air. So that's it then, said Senator Kang Min. His voice shook a little. We have 1 year to give up everything we've built in space or they'll kill us all. Maybe we should do what they want, suggested Representative Moon Jae. Better to live under their control than to die fighting. General Lim Da slammed her hand on the table. Live? You call that living? They'll watch everything we do, control what we learn, decide how many children we can have. Look at what happened to the other species that surrendered. Admiral Choi Seung stood up. He had been quiet during most of the meeting, but now his face was serious. I need to tell you all something classified. He looked at President Han Sol, who nodded. The council has done this before, Choi Sung continued. 12 times in the last 1,000 years. They find a species they think is dangerous. They give them the same choice we got, surrender or die. And what happened to those species, asked President Han Sol, though he already knew the answer. They're all gone, even the ones that surrendered. The council kept them under control for a few years, then found excuses to eliminate them completely. They call it the Harmony Doctrine. Any species that doesn't fit their idea of peaceful gets removed. The room went very quiet. Everyone understood. Now, this wasn't really a choice. The council had already decided to destroy humanity. They were just being polite about it. So what do we do? Asked Senator Kang Min. President Han Sol looked around the room. We prepare for war. Dr. Kim Jae worked day and night in her lab. The artifact from the mining moon was the most amazing thing she had ever seen. It wasn't just a piece of old technology. It was something much more important. Captain Lee, you need to see this, she said into her communicator. Captain Lee Hyun Arrived at the lab an hour later. Dr. Kim Jae looked tired but excited. I've been studying the energy patterns from the artifact, she explained. This isn't from any species we know. It's much older, maybe millions of years old. Who made it then? The data suggests it was built by something called the architects. They're mentioned in some very old council records, but most species think they're just legends. Lee Hyun looked at the data on her screen. He didn't understand most of it, but he could see the excitement in her eyes. Here's the strange part, Dr. Kim Jae continued. The artifact responded to human brain patterns. Not just any brain patterns, specifically human ones. It's like it was waiting for us to find it. What does that mean? I don't know yet. But I think this artifact might be the key to something much bigger. Meanwhile, Captain Lee Hyun had another mission. Admiral Choi Seung had sent him to make contact with the 3 species that voted against the Council's decision. His first stop was a meeting with Commander Yaxtel of the Kethmori. The Kethmori looked like giant warriors with 4 arms and thick skin like armor. They met on a small space station far from Council space. Your species is doomed, Yaxtel said in his rough voice. The Council always gets what it wants. Maybe, Lee Hyun replied. But we're not going to make it easy. For them, Yaxtel laughed, a sound like rocks falling. I like your spirit. The Council nearly destroyed my people too, 300 years ago. We survived by being smart and careful. Perhaps we can help each other. What kind of help? Information. We know where the Council keeps their war fleets. We know which species are unhappy with Council rule. We know the hidden routes through space that the Council doesn't watch. Lee Hyun felt hope for the first time since the Council meeting. And what do you want in return? When you fight the Council, and you will fight them. We want to fight beside you, we want our revenge. His next meeting was with the Driftwalkers. They were a strange species that lived on huge ships and never stayed in one place long. Their Representative Elder Seo Bin was very old and very wise. The Council thinks they control all the space routes, she said in her whisper-quiet voice. But there are paths they don't know about. Old paths, secret paths. We can teach you to use them. Why would you help us? Because the Council wants to control everyone and everything. We value freedom above all else. Your species still has that freedom spirit. Don't let them take it away. The biggest surprise came when Commander Seo Bin made contact with something called the Forgotten. These were species that the Council claimed to have eliminated. But some had actually escaped and hidden in the dark spaces between stars. We've been waiting for someone like you, said their leader, a being called the Last Speaker. Someone strong enough to challenge the Council, someone angry enough to see it through to the end. How many of you are there? More than the Council thinks. We've been building ships and weapons for centuries. When the time comes, we'll be ready. Back on Earth, engineer Oh Sung worked with his team to build new weapons. They were using what Dr. Kim Jae had learned from the artifact to make human ships stronger and faster. The technology is incredible, Oh Sung reported to Admiral Choi Chung. It's like our ships were designed to work with this alien tech. Everything fits together perfectly. How long until we have a full fleet ready? 6 months. Maybe less if we can get more artifacts like the one from the mining moon. Admiral Choi Sung smiled. It was the first time he had smiled in weeks. I think we can arrange that. While all this was happening, humanity kept talking to the Council through normal diplomatic channels. Ambassador Park Mina met with Council representatives and pretended that Earth was considering surrender. She asked for more time to evacuate the colonies. She requested meetings to discuss the details. The Council thought the humans were just scared and trying to delay the inevitable. They didn't know that every day of delay gave humanity more time to prepare. But 6 months before the deadline, everything changed. The Council sent what they called an inspection fleet to the human colony on New Eden. The planet had 50 cities and 300,000 people. Families had lived there for over 20 years. Mayor Cho Yul met the Council ships when they arrived. She was a tough woman who had helped build the first settlement on New Eden. You have 30 days to evacuate this planet, announced the Council fleet commander. Any human still here after that will be considered in violation of Council law. This is our home, Mayor Cho Yul replied. Our children were born here. We're not leaving. Then you will die here. The Council ships opened fire without warning. The orbital bombardment lasted for 3 hours. When it was over, New Eden was gone. 300,000 people were dead, including Mayor Cho Yul and her entire family. The attack was broadcast live across human space. Every person on Earth and every human colony watched their people die. President Han Sol's speech that night was short. His voice was cold as ice and hard as steel. The Galactic Council has shown us their true face. They are not peacekeepers. They are murderers. They have chosen war with humanity, and we will give them war. But it will be war like they have never seen before. Today, 300,000 of our people died. Tomorrow we begin to make the Council pay for every single one of them. Across human space, the preparations that had been secret became open. Shipyards that had been building cargo vessels revealed they were actually making warships. Mining operations that claimed to be looking for metals were actually building weapons platforms. Transport ships that seemed to be evacuating colonists were actually moving soldiers and equipment. The Council had thought they were dealing with a young, weak species that would beg for mercy. They were about to learn that they had made the biggest mistake in galactic history. In the deep spaces between stars, ancient machines that had been sleeping for millions of years began to wake up. The artifact on the mining moon was not alone. There were thousands of them, scattered across the galaxy, and they were all responding to human presence. The galaxy was about to change forever. The morning after New Eden burned, everything changed. Dr. Kim Jae made a discovery that would shake the foundations of the galaxy. "Admiral, you need to come to the lab immediately." Her voice was shaking with excitement and fear. Admiral Choi Zhong arrived to find Dr. Kim Jae staring at a wall covered with star maps and data readings. Her team had been working all night. "We found them," she said simply. "The other artifacts. They're everywhere." The star map showed hundreds of points of light scattered across the galaxy. Each one was an artifact like the one found on the mining moon. Most were on dead worlds or hidden in asteroid fields. Some were floating in deep space. "How many?" asked the Admiral. "Over 3,000 that we can detect, maybe more." Dr. Kim Jae pointed to different areas of the map. "They're not random. They form a network, a massive network that covers the entire galaxy." "What kind of network?" "The kind that could control everything. Space travel, communications, even star systems themselves. These artifacts aren't just technology. They're the infrastructure of an entire galactic civilization." Admiral Choi Sung felt his heart race. "The architects, more than that. The artifacts are responding to human DNA. Not just our thoughts or our technology. Our actual genetic code. It's like they were built specifically for us." "That's impossible. Humans evolved on Earth." Dr. Kim Jae showed him another screen filled with genetic data. "Maybe we didn't evolve naturally. Maybe we're what's left of the architects. Maybe we're their children, sent to Earth to hide until we were ready to reclaim our heritage." Before Admiral Choi Sung could respond, alarms started ringing throughout the base. Captain Lee Hyun's voice came over the communication system. "All personnel to battle stations. Council fleet approaching Earth." The Council had sent their finest ships to finish what they started at New Eden. 300 massive vessels dropped out of hyperspace near Earth's moon. Their plan was simple: destroy the human homeworld and end the problem once and for all. But the Council had no idea what they were flying into. Captain Lee Hyun stood on the bridge of the Defiant, but his ship looked nothing like it had a month ago. Human engineers had rebuilt it using architect technology. The hull could shift between dimensions. The weapons could fire energy that existed outside normal space. The engines could move faster than light without using hyperspace lanes. "All human ships, this is Captain Lee Hyun. Today we show the galaxy what happens when you murder our children. Today we show them what humans can do when we stop holding back." The battle began when the Council fleet opened fire on Earth's orbital stations. They expected the small human fleet to run away or surrender. Instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy unlike anything they had ever seen. Lieutenant Park June led a squadron of fighters that could phase in and out of reality. They appeared inside Council ships, fired their weapons, and vanished before return fire could hit them. Council crews found themselves fighting ghosts. Commander Yu Hai commanded a ship that could be in multiple places at the same time. Council targeting systems couldn't lock onto something that existed in 17 different dimensions simultaneously. But the real shock came when Captain Li Hyun took the Defiant directly into the Council formation. His ship moved like it was dancing, avoiding every shot while firing weapons that the Council had never seen before. The Velthari flagship was a crystal ship 3 miles long. It had never been damaged in 5,000 years of service. Captain Li Hyun's weapons hit it once and the entire ship cracked like an egg. The crystal beings inside died so fast they didn't have time to scream. "This is for New Eden," Li Hyun said as he watched the crystal ship break apart. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it was over, not a single Council ship remained. Some had been destroyed. Others had fled back to hyperspace. The rest had surrendered and been captured. News of the victory spread across the galaxy faster than light. The Council, which had ruled space for 50,000 years, had been defeated by a species that had been in space for less than a century. But the real shock came from what humans found on the captured ships. "They have files on everything," reported Intelligence Officer Yang Jin. "Every species they've destroyed, every world they've sterilized, every civilization they've wiped out." The files painted a picture of horror that stretched back thousands of years. The Council didn't just eliminate species that threatened them. They destroyed any species that was different, creative, or independent. They had turned the galaxy into a place where only the weak and obedient could survive. "How many?" asked Admiral Choi Sung. "Over 200 species completely eliminated, thousands more broken down until they were just slaves. The Council has been committing genocide for millennia." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the Architect Network continued to wake up. Ancient stations began broadcasting signals that only humans could understand. Weapons platforms that had been hidden for millions of years powered up and waited for commands. Dr. Song Hee, working with a team of geneticists, made another discovery that changed everything. "The DNA evidence is clear," she reported to President Han Sol. "Humans aren't just compatible with architect technology. We are architects, or at least we're what they became." "What do you mean?" "The architects didn't disappear. They evolved. They changed themselves into something that could survive while their enemies destroyed their civilization. They became us." The implications were staggering. Humanity wasn't a young species stumbling around the galaxy. They were the rightful heirs to the most advanced civilization that had ever existed. As this news spread, something unexpected happened. Species across the galaxy began to rebel against the Council. The Keth Mori, who had been living under Council occupation for centuries, rose up and destroyed the Council garrison on their homeworld. The Driftwalkers emerged from hiding and began attacking Council supply lines. Even some of the Council's own member species began to question their loyalty. The Forgotten launched their own attacks from the Galactic Rim. Ships that the Council thought had been destroyed centuries ago began appearing in Council space, crewed by the descendants of species that had supposedly been eliminated. Fleet Admiral Nam Ki coordinated these attacks from a massive space station that had appeared near the galactic core. It was an architect facility that had been waiting millions of years for its builders to return. "The galaxy is in full rebellion," he reported to Earth. 47 species have openly joined us. 20 more are fighting their own wars against Council forces. The Council's empire is falling apart. But the Council wasn't finished. In their desperation, they began using weapons they had kept hidden for thousands of years. Planet killers that could destroy entire worlds. Bioweapons that could wipe out all life in a star system. Reality bombs that could erase matter from existence. The human agricultural world of New Harvest became their next target. Governor Lee Soon tried to evacuate the planet's 2 million colonists, but there wasn't enough time. The Council's planet killer weapons struck before the evacuation ships could escape. Another 2 million humans died in an instant. This time, humanity's response was swift and terrible. Captain Young-woo led a fleet of architect ships to the ethereal homeworld, a massive gas giant that had been considered impossible to attack. The ethereals existed as beings of living gas inside their planet's atmosphere. Human ships, redesigned, with architect technology, dove directly into the gas giant's atmosphere. They fought a battle inside the planet itself, something no species had ever attempted before. When the ethereal's homeworld fell, it sent shockwaves across the galaxy. "No one is safe from us," Captain Jung Woo broadcast to the galaxy. "No world is too far. No defense is too strong. You wanted to see what humans are capable of. Now you know." Dr. Kim Jae's team unlocked more architect technology every day. Ships that could destroy stars, weapons that could target specific genetic codes across interstellar distances, defensive systems that could make entire star systems invisible. But the most amazing discovery was yet to come. "Admiral," Dr. Kim Jae called, "I found something incredible. The architects left us a fleet. The fleet was hidden in a pocket dimension, waiting for humanity to discover it. Millions of ships, from small fighters to massive dreadnoughts the size of moons, all of them designed to work with human crews, all of them waiting for the day when their builders would need them again. Admiral Shin Mei became the first human to command an architect dreadnought. The ship was so large it had its own gravity. Its weapons could sterilize entire star systems. Its defenses could stop anything the Council had. "This changes everything," she reported. "We're not just fighting for survival anymore. We're taking back what was always ours." The Council began to realize they had made a terrible mistake. They weren't fighting a young species that had gotten lucky. They were fighting the return of the galaxy's former masters. The architects had come home and they were very angry about what they found. Across the galaxy, ancient systems continued to wake up. Weapons platforms activated. Defense networks came online. Transportation systems that had been dormant for millions of years began working again. The galaxy was remembering its past and humanity was ready to reclaim their inheritance. The war that had started with one human colony was now burning across the entire galaxy. What the Council had thought would be a quick extermination had become their worst nightmare. Fleet Admiral Nam Ki stood in the command center of the Architect, station known as Nexus Prime. Around him, holographic displays showed the position of every ship in the galaxy. The ancient station had been built to coordinate the defense of galactic civilization. Now it was being used to tear down the Council's empire. "Status report," he ordered. 43 Council worlds have fallen, reported Commander Bei Wan. 67 more are under siege. The Forgotten Fleets have retaken most of the galactic rim. The Keth Mori rebellion has spread to 8 systems. And Council response? They're pulling back to defend their core worlds. But they're also... She paused. They're using the forbidden weapons, planet killers, star destroyers. They're so desperate they're breaking their own laws. Nam Ki nodded grimly. The Council had kept certain weapons locked away for thousands of years, promising never to use them, but facing total defeat, they had abandoned all restraint. How many worlds have they destroyed? 17 so far. All of them former Council colonies that joined our rebellion. They're destroying their own people rather than let them be free. The news made Nam Ki angry but not surprised. The Council had always been about control. If they couldn't control something, they would destroy it. On the other side of the galaxy, Captain Jung Woo led the siege of Christia Prime, the Nexari homeworld. The planet was covered in massive crystal cities that had grown for thousands of years. The Nexari had thought their homeworld was impossible to attack. They were wrong. Human ships armed with architect weapons fired beams that could change the structure of matter itself. The crystal cities that had stood for millennia began to crack and fall. The silicon-based Nexari, who had lived for thousands of years, found themselves facing extinction in a matter of hours. Surrender now and your people will live, Jung Woo broadcast to the planet. Continue to fight and we will turn your world to dust. The Nexari leader, Ancient Silvar, sent a response that crackled with fear. How? How can a young species possess such power? We're not young, Jung Woo replied. We're older than your civilization, older than the Council. We're the children of the architects and we've come home. The surrender of Christia Prime sent shockwaves through Council space. The Nexari had been one of the founding species of the Council. If they could fall, Anyone could fall. But the Council's desperation led them to make increasingly horrible decisions. Counselor Prime Zeftar, leader of the Transdimensional Collective, authorized the use of weapons that had been banned for good reason. The human colony world of New Harvest became their target. It was a peaceful farming world where families had built quiet lives growing food for other human colonies. Governor Lee Soon had tried to evacuate when the war started, but many colonists had refused to leave their homes. The Council's attack wasn't just an orbital bombardment. They used a weapon that erased matter from existence. New Harvest and its 2 million people simply stopped existing. One moment they were there. The next moment, there was nothing but empty space. The attack was broadcast across human space. Children watched their grandparents disappear. Parents saw their children vanish without even leaving bodies to bury. Humanity's response was swift and absolute. "No more mercy," announced President Han Sol in an address to the galaxy. "No more restraint. The Council has shown us that they will commit any atrocity to maintain their power. Now they will face the full fury of awakened humanity." Admiral Shin Mei commanded the first Architect dreadnought to enter battle. The ship was called the Righteous Fury, and it was larger than most space stations. Its crew of 50,000 humans operated weapons that could reshape reality itself. Her target was the Zephyrian home system, where Counselor Prime Zeftar had given the order to destroy New Harvest. The Zephyrians lived on multiple worlds and artificial habitats throughout their star system. They had built their civilization over 10,000 years. The Righteous Fury destroyed it all in one day. "This is for New Harvest," Admiral Shin Mei announced as her ship's weapons tore apart Zephyrian cities. "This is for every human child you murdered. This is what happens when you cross the line." The destruction of the Zephyrian home system marked the beginning of humanity's final offensive. No longer content to just defend themselves, human forces began systematically destroying every Council stronghold in the galaxy. General Huang Do led the ground assault on the Nexari silicon rings, massive space habitats that had housed trillions of crystal beings for thousands of years. Human soldiers, equipped with Architect power armor, fought through the rings section by section. The fighting was brutal. The Nexari had never been a warrior species, but they fought desperately to defend their homes. Human soldiers found themselves fighting enemies made of living crystal who could change their shape at will. But Architect technology gave humanity advantages that no other species could match. Human weapons could disrupt the quantum bonds that held the Nexari together. Human armor could shift between dimensions to avoid attacks. Human soldiers could survive in environments that would kill any other species. "The silicon rings are burning," General Huang Do reported to Fleet Command. "The Nexari are requesting terms of surrender." "No terms," came the reply from President Han Sol. "Not after New Harvest. They wanted total war. Now they have it." Meanwhile, Dr. Kim Jae made another discovery that changed the nature of the war. Deep in the Architect database, she found files that revealed the true history of the galaxy. "The Council didn't just steal our technology," she explained to the assembled human leadership. "They stole our entire civilization. The Architects built the hyperspace lanes. They created the communication networks. They established the first galactic government. The Council took all of it and claimed it as their own. Every species in Raiden, the galaxy has been living in our house," added Dr. Song-hee, "using our roads, our technology, our infrastructure, and they used it to oppress and destroy anyone who reminded them too much of us." The revelation spread quickly through human forces. This wasn't just a war for survival anymore. It was a war to reclaim stolen property. The entire galaxy belonged to humanity by right of inheritance. As human forces pushed deeper into Council space, they activated more Architect systems. Ancient defense platforms came online. Hidden weapons caches revealed themselves. Transportation, networks that had been controlled by the Council for millennia, suddenly responded only to human commands. Captain Lee Hyun led a fleet to the Council's military headquarters on Titan Station. The massive space structure had been built by the Council to coordinate their military forces across the galaxy. It was defended by the most powerful fleet the Council had ever assembled. The battle for Titan Station lasted 3 days. "Council," Ships fought with the desperation of cornered animals. They used every weapon they had, including some that damaged space itself. But human forces, supported by architect technology, were unstoppable. Titan Station is ours, Captain Lee Hyun reported. We have their military codes, their fleet positions, their strategic plans. The Council's military is finished. With their military command destroyed, Council resistance began to collapse. Species that had been forced to fight for the Council began switching sides. Others simply withdrew their fleets and refused to participate. Further, the Forgotten emerged from hiding in massive numbers. Hundreds of species that the Council claimed to have eliminated revealed that they had been building their own fleets in secret. Ships that looked like they had been cobbled together from scraps proved to be equipped with weapons that could destroy Council dreadnoughts. We have been waiting for this day for centuries, announced the last speaker of the Forgotten. Today, we reclaim our homes. Today we have our revenge. But the final battle was yet to come. The Council's leaders had retreated to Galactic Central, the massive space station at the heart of the galaxy, where they had ruled for 50,000 years. The station was larger than most star systems and housed trillions of beings from hundreds of species. Supreme Admiral Kim Hana was chosen to lead the final assault. She commanded a fleet of 10,000 ships, including a dozen architect dreadnoughts. But the Council wasn't defenseless. Galactic Central was protected by automated defense, systems that had been built by the architects themselves millions of years ago. The station is defending itself, reported her tactical officer as ancient weapons platforms opened fire on the approaching human fleet. It doesn't recognize us as architects. Then we remind it who we are, Kim Hana replied. She activated the master control codes that Dr. Kim Jae had discovered in the architect database. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The defense platforms stopped firing. Docking bays opened to receive human ships. The station's own computer systems began broadcasting human identification codes. Galactic Central recognizes us, Kim Hana announced to her fleet. We're coming home. As human forces boarded the station, they found a galaxy's worth of history waiting for them. The Council had been using architect facilities for their government, never knowing that they were trespassers in someone else's house. The final confrontation was about to begin. The final battle for Galactic Central was unlike any conflict the galaxy had ever seen. Captain Lee Hyun led the boarding parties through corridors that had been built by humanity's ancestors millions of years ago. The station recognized them, opening sealed doors and activating systems that had been dormant since the fall of the architect civilization. The station is helping us, reported Lieutenant Park Jun as blast doors opened ahead of their advance team. It's like it wants us to win. The Council's defenders fought desperately in the halls of their own capital, but they were fighting in a building designed by their enemies, using weapons provided by their enemies, breathing air filtered by systems their enemies had built. Council leader Kethmore barricaded himself in the central chamber with his most loyal guards. The silver metal Velthari had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. He had never imagined it would end like this. How? He asked as human soldiers broke through his final defenses. How can a species so young possess such power? Captain Lee Hyun removed his helmet, showing his human face to the alien leader. We're not young. We're older than your entire civilization. We built this station. We built the hyperspace lanes you use. We built the galaxy you think you rule. Impossible. The humans appeared only recently. The architects never disappeared, Lee Hyun explained. They evolved. They changed. They became us. And now we've come home to find squatters living in our house. The capture of Council leader Kethmore marked the end of organized resistance. Across the galaxy, Council forces laid down their weapons or fled to the outer rim. The government that had ruled for 50,000 years collapsed in a matter of days. But winning the war was only the beginning. Now humanity had to decide what to do with absolute power over the galaxy. Ambassador Park Mina stood in the same council chamber where she had been threatened a year ago. But now the roles were completely reversed. The seats that had once held proud council members were now filled with defeated alien leaders waiting to learn their fate. The trial of the council became the most watched event in galactic history. Every species in the galaxy tuned in to see Justice being served. Prosecutor Yang Jin presented evidence of thousands of years of genocide. The council claims they maintained peace, she said, displaying holographic images of destroyed worlds. But they maintained it by eliminating anyone who disagreed with them. The evidence was overwhelming. Files from council computers showed the systematic destruction of species that had committed no crime except being different. Plans for the complete elimination of dozens of civilizations. Orders to destroy worlds full of innocent people. Some council members tried to defend themselves. Councillor Vexhai of the Trans-Dimensional Collective claimed they were only following ancient laws. We maintained order for 50,000 years. Without us, the galaxy would have been chaos. You call the destruction of 200 species order? Yang Jin replied. You call the enslavement of thousands of worlds peace? You turned the galaxy into a graveyard and called it harmony. Others, like the ethereal representative Zilmos, attempted to blame their subordinates. We never knew the full extent of the elimination programs. We thought the disappeared species had simply relocated. The excuse convinced no one. The evidence showed that every council leader had known exactly what they were doing. For 3 months, the trial continued. Witness after witness testified about council atrocities. Survivors of the elimination programs told their stories. Representatives of the forgotten described centuries of hiding in the dark spaces between stars. But the most powerful testimony came from humans. Families of the victims from New Eden and New Harvest stood before the assembled galaxy and described what it was like to watch their loved ones die for the crime of being human. You didn't just murder our people, said Maria Santos, whose husband and children had died on New Eden. You murdered them for being inconvenient, for being different, for being free. When the evidence phase ended, the galaxy waited to see what humanity would do with its victory. President Han Sol addressed the galaxy from the same podium where council leaders had once announced the elimination of entire species. Many of you expect us to become the new council, he began. Many of you fear that we will use our power the same way the council did. Some of you hope we will simply take revenge and eliminate everyone who opposed us. He paused, looking out at the thousands of alien representatives in the chamber. You're all wrong. We didn't fight this war to rule you. We fought it to ensure that no species would ever again face extinction for the crime of being different. We fought it to ensure that no government would ever again have the power to eliminate entire civilizations on a whim. The age of the Council is over. The age of the Galactic Federation begins now. The new government was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of a ruling council that could vote to eliminate species, the Federation was built on principles of absolute sovereignty. Every species had complete control over their homeworld and colonies. No species could be forced to participate in anything against their will. Director Moon Se oversaw the establishment of the new government. The Federation had no capital world, no ruling species, no central authority that could become corrupt. Instead, it was a network of equal partners working together by choice. The Federation exists to serve its members, not to rule them, she explained to the galaxy. Any species that wants to leave can leave at any time. Any species that wants to join can apply. No one will be forced to do anything they don't want to do. Admiral Choi Sung restructured the galaxy's military forces. Instead of fleets designed to conquer and oppress, the new forces were built to protect and defend. The architect weapons that had destroyed the Council were locked away, to be used only if another threat to galactic freedom emerged. Never again became the motto of the Federation Defense Force. Never again will any species face extinction for being inconvenient. Never again will any government have the power to eliminate entire civilizations. The transformation of galactic society took years. Species that had been oppressed for millennia had to learn how to be free. Others that had been part of the ruling class had to accept that they were no longer in charge. Some adapted quickly. The Kethmori, who had always valued strength and honor, thrived under the new system. The Driftwalkers continued their nomadic lifestyle, but now they could trade freely with anyone they wanted. Others struggled. The Velthari, who had ruled for thousands of years, found it difficult to accept their new status as equals. Some refused to participate in the Federation and withdrew to their homeworld. Others slowly learned to work with former enemies. The forgotten returned from the galactic rim to reclaim their ancestral homes. Worlds that had been empty for centuries suddenly came back to life as species that everyone thought were extinct began rebuilding their civilizations. Dr. Kim Jae led teams of scientists in exploring the full extent of the architect legacy. They discovered that the ancient network didn't just cover their galaxy. It extended to other galaxies, other dimensions, other realities. Humanity had inherited not just one galaxy, but access to an entire universe. The architects weren't just advanced, she reported to the Federation Council. They were explorers. They built gateways to everywhere. We've inherited the keys to infinity itself. But with great power came great responsibility. The Federation established strict rules about the use of architect technology. No one species could control it all. The most dangerous weapons were sealed away completely. The exploration of other galaxies would be done slowly and carefully. We've seen what happens when power is concentrated in too few hands. President Hansel reminded the Federation Council, "We will not make the same mistakes the Council made." Years passed. The galaxy healed from millennia of oppression. New species emerged from hiding or from unexplored regions. Trade flourished between species that had never been allowed to communicate under Council rule. Art, science, and culture exploded as beings who had been forced to conform to Council. Standards suddenly had the freedom to be themselves. Captain Lee Hyun, now an old man, stood on the observation deck of Galactic Central. The station had been transformed from a symbol of oppression into a meeting place for free peoples. Through the massive windows, he could see ships from hundreds of different species traveling freely through space that had once been forbidden to most of them. A young human officer approached him. "Sir, the morning briefings are ready." Lee Hyun smiled. "What do we have today?" 3 new species requesting Federation membership. A dispute between the Kethmori and the Nixari over mining rights. Both sides are asking for mediation instead of fighting. And the exploration fleet has found what looks like another architect facility in the Andromeda Galaxy. Any threats? Any species trying to build another empire? No, sir. Everyone seems happy with the way things are. Lee Hyun nodded. It had taken decades, but the galaxy had finally learned to live in peace. Not the false peace of oppression that the Council had imposed, but real peace built on mutual respect and freedom. He thought about the long journey that had brought them here. The mining accident that had started it all, the Council's ultimatum, the terrible war that followed, the millions who had died before the galaxy could be free.